Hi everyone, this is the True Citizen once again. Today I thought I'll talk briefly on the latest engagement between the Philippines and India and the association thereof. President Marcos Jr., also known as Bongbong Marcos, came to India on the 4th of August 2025 along with a huge business and ministerial delegation to New Delhi to be concluded in Bangalore, and he's had massive interaction with the government as much as the private industry to establish various agreements and accords, particularly that he signed with India, is the strategic partnership, which makes Philippines now a favored partner of India, each obligated to the other in terms of security. What it means is that if Philippines is ever found to be under distress, India has to come to its rescue, meaning whether it's the Indian Navy, Air Force, or Army, they are meant to come and help Philippines because we have undertaken the security of the Philippines. The strategic partnership is not merely for defense, as I said earlier. Actually, what it means is favoring each other in terms of business, commerce, exchanges, and agreements on a fast track basis, which benefit economically both our countries. And to this effect, I must say that Bongbong Marcos has made a huge impression upon the people of India by way of his eloquent way of talking, simplicity, straightforward words, honestly talking from his heart, and he looked like an Indian lover because the way he has expressed himself, looks like an Indophile. You know, the way he mentioned Ramayana and Sanskrit having an impact on the Philippines going back in ancestral times, he has really expressed himself beautifully and won Indian hearts. And I can assure you, the Indian political establishment, businesses, and private citizens have seen his programs far, far in greater depth than we normally see others who come and go now and again because of the way he has articulated himself, used beautiful English, perfectly spoken with the right words and right meaning. Very impressive indeed. While you can see a lot of data, what I mentioned in an Excel sheet, which you see here in this talk, uh, most of the things are standard, but something which is of particular interest to me personally is that Philippines is a classical example that matches Indian religious, cultural, and civilization ethos. We match each other because the way we are secular democracies having the fear of takeover by Islamic insurgents, which both our countries are suffering immensely. And I know for a fact that in southern Philippines there is an insurgency going on by Muslim rebels who are threatening to take over, and I understand they are indirectly supported by Malaysia, which is a quite a strong Islamist jihadist belief country, which is known to support Islamic causes. So anyway, we the better part is that to understand is that the per capita income of the Philippines, interestingly, very interestingly, please hear me, is around $4,730, while India remains at 2,800 somewhere. In other words, Philippines is doing very well and is way ahead of us, and it shows that how well the country has been governed. One more part, interesting part rather, is that their currency is called peso. Now, peso again is a funnily a word which comes from India ideally, because in the north and the Marwadi community, the business community in the north in Rajasthan, they call pesa to be peso. I don't know whether there is any correlation to this and why was the currency named peso, but peso does imply pesa. Pesa means money. So, but never mind. This is just a passing point which I thought I could talk about. And there are, despite such a vibrant Indian democracy and the size, unfortunately, the trade is very tiny at the moment. I mean, the two-way trade is worth just about $3.3 billion between us. While each of our nations are very keen on learning from each other, as Bongbong Marcos said, one thing which India can really, really learn and which India has been ignoring for the last 80 years is the cleanliness part. India remains a very dirty country basically. We have 1 trillion tons of garbage strewn all across the nation. Maybe we can learn cleaning up technology from Philippines and maybe we can appoint a Filipino agency to clean up India. We could begin with a couple of metros, maybe Mumbai where 100 million tons of garbage is sitting everywhere. And the infrastructure is pathetic in India, as we all know. Broken roads, potholed roads, no curbs, no curbs on the road properly made. It's quite a disaster, really, and such miserable condition that Indians are living in. Unfortunately, our ministers and government have accepted it as an Indian way of life. It's quite insulting for foreigners to come to India and see how noisy, how dirty, garbage strewn everywhere, unclean rivers, streams. It's shocking. I mean, really shocking. And this is something I'm really ashamed of as an Indian. And I hope Philippines can guide our nation on how to keep our country clean. I mean, this is one point which the government continues to ignore, and it cannot continue forever. Let us appoint someone who can teach us how to keep our country clean. While I don't think Philippines has much to offer in terms of food, it's a very westernized, how do you say, economy and people. In fact, there is a saying, an old saying that goes and says that Filipinos are more American than the American themselves. But one thing good about Philippines is that you can have food on the roadside, hawkers, but you are unlikely to have a bad stomach. Unfortunately, Indian food, roadside food generally, is infected with E. coli and amoeba. It's really bad, really bad. I mean, if Indians themselves suffer the highest cases of dysentery and diarrhea all over the world, if you check the statistics, it's not that they got used to it. It's just that they're bearing with it, and the government is not really looking into it. This stems from unclean sewers, open sewers, and which accompanies, of course, dengue and malaria on a massive scale. These are some of the things which Indians can learn from the Philippines on how to maintain hygiene, neat and clean areas. We need to partner instead of always talking on the science, technology, digital, aerospace. Let's come down to the basics. The reason is it is the duty of the government whom we elect because we expect a good life. We didn't vote a government that you make a rocket which can take us to planet Mars. We didn't vote you to say that you can make a nuclear bomb. We voted you so that we can have a good, peaceful, serene, satisfied way of life to live in. We can't live under noise and squalor, stench and dirt and filth and disease and all the time having to take medicines to cure ourselves. If the government does not take care of the citizens, the whole basic reasons for them to get elected is defeated. This is another thing which India can learn from the Philippines. Another point which we need to touch upon is that while the government says that they are very friendly in terms of business, I assure you it's not. India is full of red tape. Anybody coming to India to invest will need lots and lots of patience. The business person who plans or the investor will be harassed from one table to another. This also stems from corruption. I'm sorry to say, but India is not bereft of all these problems. I mean, our most of our government departments are corrupt to the extent that even our police department, you go and make a complaint in the police department, they won't act upon it till they get a packet. Again, we have to learn here. And while Indians are saying, yes, you are welcome, I'm sorry to say It's not easy doing business in India. There'll be 20 departments after your blood until you've been soaked dry with your margins of around 20% already wiped out to establish yourself. You cannot do business in India. And leading to one more point from here, don't be mistaken about the market of India, which they claim is 1.4 billion. No, sir. No, sir. It's not. The effective contributor and the buyer and the effective business that takes place in India is done by 1% of the population. Yes, 1%, which is 150 million people. The rest again come in second tier, which is around something like 35%, so-called lower middle class, which is around 450 million. But they are not spenders, they are just surviving somehow. And the last category of the balanced lot, which is roughly about 50 to 60%, are what we call the scroungers. Because the Indian government is giving freebies, free meals, free food, oil as an election prerogative. Indian citizens get all these benefits, and now I can tell you there's a massive ongoing labor shortage in India because people aren't working, because the food needs have been taken care of. All they and in the villages they have their own residence, so it doesn't matter anymore. Why work? So this is another area which Indians are not telling and they are hiding, but these are some of the true facts. Let's face it, I'm not being critical of my country, but I'm telling the truth. And this is a reality in India. One best part about the Philippines and India is our common language, which is English. India must take its pride that, take pride in the fact that English is our lingua franca of the nation, because we've had English for the last 300 years in our country, and it remains to be the main language in terms of commerce, judiciary, even in the parliament. And we are very comfortable with English. I mean we can express ourselves probably better in English than our so-called language of Hindi. And this we have to look upon English in India as our second language after, let's say, the widely spoken Hindi. But then again, in the Philippines, English is widely spoken and accepted as its own language. Nothing wrong about it. Language can be adopted, and they have adopted it very well. And Indians must look upon English as our common language, which is so easy to talk to the Filipinos. Lovely, and they speak very well, and I love it. Coming to the next point is on defense. Yes, Philippines has bought BrahMos from us, maybe some more arms and all. But then again, this may be ongoing as much as India, I can assure you, is affected by the so-called Islamic nations all over the world. For example, for the benefit of the Filipinos, in case they happen to watch this talk of mine, Armenia is another country in the Balkans where they've had a war going on with Azerbaijan. And you know what they did? Just like Ottoman Turks, who got rid of the European population, forcibly converted them to Islam many years ago, the Byzantines, the Ottomans. And the outcome, of course, was Azerbaijan as well. Christian Armenians were, very badly treated. You know what I mean? I can use the words, but maybe it's not meant to be polite or something. But regardless, 5 million women of Armenia have been affected in the last, you can say, around 100 to 200 years. And the Azerbaijanis, who were very cruel in terms of the way they are, they did this to Armenia. And Armenia could not turn anywhere because Turkey had been backing Azerbaijan and all. But India has come to their rescue, and they have bought missile systems from India, and maybe they'll be going for some planes and so on. So look at the commonality. Here, Philippines is a Christian nation, Armenia is Christian. Cyprus, another Christian nation, which India stands for, because again the Islamic lobby is troubling Cyprus. They forcibly took the land. Nobody talks about it. The 57 countries just take it. Oh, it's fine. Do you understand what I mean? Even for Kashmir, which has been converted into Islamic state, what it used to be Hindu, but never mind. and the same is being supported by the Islamic nations. So India has similar situations, and I tell you, even Philippines has a threat because if you look at ASEAN, it gets increasingly dominated by Malaysia and Indonesia. They are also the largest economies. So it affects mentally and physically, what they plan for the future with the expanding Islamic ways. So what I'm saying is that again, in terms of defense, India is very righteously supporting the Philippines. Never mind their problems are with China or whatever. That's besides the point. But India must stand with those who match the culture, religion, and ethos and civilization ethos of Hindus, so as to say, from India. And we match very well with the Christians all over the world, particularly, for example, Armenia, Cyprus, Greece, and even Philippines. We have similar way of life, similar language, with no evil desires. Lastly, but not the least, I wish to inform you that I have been to the Philippines for the first time in 1981. This was under the UNCTAD SIDA, Swedish International Development Authority, because I had graduated from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. So we were sent to the Philippines. At that time, let me tell you, we were looking at possibilities of export of diesel engines to the Philippines for the agricultural sector. Imagine 1981, okay? And we were in Makati, Metro Manila. And oh, the love and affection that they showered at that time. I would be surprised it's gone hundredfold more now. But I tell you, memories are still there, the photos are still there, and I love Filipinas. One, I love Filipinas. May our countries prosper. Thank you. See you again. Bye bye.